How regulations could affect Ethereum in 2021. This alternative cryptocurrency, also known as an altcoin, has demonstrated to the rest of the world that the technology that underpins Bitcoin can be used for many other IT applications. We examine what authorities may do to influence Ethereum in this video. Authorities and regulatory organizations will undoubtedly pursue this coin as it grows in popularity. Please like, subscribe, and switch on post alerts before we get started with the video. You won't want to miss a single video since our material is constantly intriguing and entertaining. Ethereum's history is interwoven with that of Bitcoin, since one would not exist without the other. After the introduction of Bitcoin in January 2009, Ethereum was introduced 6 years later in 2015. During those 6 years, co-creators Vitalik Buterin and Gavin Wood were busy researching Bitcoin and putting the Ethereum infrastructure together. A lot occurred. The price of Ethereum is now hovering around $3,000. Bitcoin will not be free from regulation as officials attempt to control all cryptocurrencies. Although Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies are decentralized, they are nonetheless dependent on other regulated financial systems and organizations. Banks and trade exchanges are examples of such services. Regulators may question these other auxiliary institutions if they wish to do something about Ethereum and other digital coins. Now, let's look at some of the essential things regulators can do to influence Ethereum. We'll go down each of these issues one by one to determine what consequences they could have. Policy changes. Despite the decentralized nature of Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies, regulatory organizations may still wield a lot of power, primarily if the government supports them. One of the significant duties of government, as we all know, is to enact new laws and policies. Well, I'm not saying it'll be perfect or straightforward, but they can always modify things to make cryptocurrencies illegal or restricted. It's easy to see how such a move would reduce demand, and, as a result, the price of cryptocurrencies. Until the legislation is altered again, it would be the beginning of the end. Price and transfer caps. While these regulatory agencies cannot directly regulate crypto, they may influence auxiliary bodies, such as banks, which crypto traders occasionally rely on. They can, for example, set limits on how much money banks and exchange platforms can swap for these digital currencies, comparable to policy changes. Because not everyone accepts cryptocurrency as payment, such a move will annoy many traders. It will also restrict the number of large-scale cryptocurrency transactions. Investigation. Unscrupulous persons who seek to take advantage of enthusiastic traders often concoct deceptive schemes, which many people fall for. As a result, if these regulatory authorities wish to ensure that fledgling cryptocurrencies are safe investments, they might research their origins thoroughly. They'd be making the world of digital currency a safer place to enter in this way. Hearings rather than making meaningful choices based on disinformation and ignorance. They should invite Bitcoin influencers and fans to hearings to update legislators on the direction new technology is taking. As a result, these politicians will be less scared by the growth of cryptocurrency and will be less likely to make hasty decisions that will be difficult to reverse. Vitalik Buterin and Gavin Wood, co-creator of Ethereum, might be the focus of a hearing. Educational campaigns. Although these authorities are not permitted to intervene directly, they can assist investors in making smarter financial decisions. In a similar vein, there's no reason why these organizations couldn't engage in public relations efforts to dissuade people from using Ethereum. It's common knowledge that certain media companies have political inclinations and can be swayed by the government. People are not as resistant to misinformation as they believe. Such misinformation operations have the potential to impede crypto's growth for years. Proposing government-controlled coins. Cryptocurrencies like Ethereum, on the other hand, are now leading the way. It's not hard to see these governments and regulatory bodies implementing their controlled cryptocurrencies to reclaim and maintain control of the financial markets. Nobody should be surprised if anything like this happens. These countries already have the infrastructure in place as well as the financial means to do so. Some could even claim that it's the most appropriate course of action. That's all there is to it. These are some of the actions that these regulatory organizations can take in 2021 to influence Ethereum. Some of these techniques have already been applied. As a result, several cryptocurrencies are struggling to maintain their value. It's important to realize that these regulatory organizations aren't continually operating in bad faith. The majority of them only wish to safeguard regular traders. You might argue that influential persons whose interests conflict with Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies are lobbying legislators. There's no way to tell for sure in any scenario. Even though all cryptocurrencies appear to be affected by these regulatory actions, some appear to have a better chance of surviving than others. One of these is Ethereum, which has a higher utility than Bitcoin. Sure, both Bitcoin and Ethereum have negative environmental consequences. Ethereum's creators, on the other hand, have promised to move the cryptocurrency to a much more stable database. At this time, the price may not reflect Ethereum's brighter future. However, based on our analysis, it is sure to recover. Cryptocurrency as a whole appears to be in a highly volatile condition right now. However, for some, now is the perfect moment to join in the fun. And this makes sense since no risk, no return. So if you're concerned that all of the crypto graphs are in the red, don't be too concerned. As we near the end of this video, we hope you've gained some valuable insight into how laws influence Ethereum. Even though Ethereum is more robust than other cryptocurrencies, regulators are unlikely to let it go without a fight. Is there a technique you think regulators should pursue that we didn't mention? Please feel free to debate this in the comment section. As we say our goodbyes, we'd want to remind you to like, subscribe, comment, and share the video if you like it. You won't want to miss out on the next one since our videos are constantly fascinating and entertaining. Take care of yourself till then. I'll see you later.